Now, live from Whitney Media, 1460 WVOX, the Greenberg Report with Greenberg Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenberg Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning. My name is Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenberg Town Supervisor, and we have a very interesting show today. The COVID-19 crisis has impacted many people's lives, and the lives of restaurant owners and staff have also been impacted. So today, my guest is Chef David DiBari, who is a chef, and he's with the Cookery in Dobbs Ferry. It's a very well-known and well-respected restaurant in the village of Dobbs Ferry. And they have, along with other restaurants, started a staff relief fund for their staff. So, Chef DiBari, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Paul, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good morning to everyone.
I'm sorry, could you maybe just start by telling us where your restaurant is located and maybe telling us about the impact COVID has had on your business and the business of colleagues?
Well, first of all, thank you again. I own the and operate the Cookery restaurant in Dobbs Ferry. We've been there for just about 11 years now, doing soulful Italian sort of gastropubby food. And we also own the Parlor in Dobbs Ferry, which is our Neapolitan wood-fired pizza place. And then also Eugene's Diner and Bar in Portchester, which was only open for just about a year and a couple of months before COVID hit. And alongside that, we also have our wood-fired mobile pizza truck called Donation Pizza Truck. And that's sort of been a grassroots effort. About 6 years ago, we called it Donation because, a percentage of our proceeds were always going to a select charity that maybe have been requested by others or whatnot. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on, and I think just like you said, like many other restaurants coming out of this thing 2 months ago, nobody really had a playbook for what to do or how to operate and what was going to hit. I think we were all super scared for a lot of different reasons. What's going to happen to our business? We all have debt. We all have things to pay. We all have people to support. And I think primarily, though, the first thing was really what do we do with all of the 75 or 100 members of our staff between all the restaurants? It was super scary to think about everyone, basically having to lose their jobs or being forced to lose their jobs. And the first, to make that call was painful. To just say, listen, guys, we've got to close the restaurants like immediately because this is getting really bad. It was very hard to do, and it was very emotional for all of us to have to try to pull that trigger. And we knew we had to do something, just like many other restaurants. And the first thing was the staff. We had to keep people employed, whether they were going to get employment or not, mostly for those who couldn't, or whether they had to go through a waiting period. We started a GoFundMe page called the Cookery Restaurant Group Staff Relief Fund, which we were very thankful to have so many people in the community raise almost $40,000 for our staff members, which was incredible to see the love and support. And then, days after the government had mandated that we close, then it really, really got scary and really serious. And we were fortunate, and this is debatable, to be considered an essential business, and I could almost argue that, and which could be self-defeating, but for the greater cause, I think in the beginning, if you ask me, I'd say to the government, like let's just close everything down so this doesn't go any further. But we were fortunate to be an essential business, and with that, we knew that our goals and our passion and our mission had to change if we were going to be allowed to be open. But we could still be the passionate people that we were in terms of our work ethic and what we do for a living and how we create and produce food. So, we said, let's make this, let's do this right. Let's do something that we can affect and have in the community and help the community. And obviously you could read the news, and we talk to our chef friends and business owners and I have so many people every day. What do we do? What's going on? How do we deal with this? We said, let's open these doors and let's use the passion that we have. Let's use the people that have amazing work ethic and the people that work for us and get behind us every day. And let's do something that will make a difference. And if you were watching the news and you could see what's going on and you're talking to people, we knew that the healthcare industry was getting just bombarded, killed, destroyed. Like, it was like ridiculous to see the stories. And you're thinking about, nurses and doctors who are nonstop, putting themselves in harm's way. It's about the time that they have to get home, feed their own families, feed themselves. The hours are ridiculous. So how can we help that situation? How can we help them? Not just through nourishment, because that's what food ultimately really is, but how do we motivate them? How do we inspire them? And so we started with the parlor, and we did a small campaign that we have a GoFundMe page for called Dough for Dough, and that was basically like, dough for money or pizza for money, and we were accepting donations for pizzas that would ultimately, we would create a sort of a bank of pizzas and then just drop them at local hospitals. And we started to create this, sort of social media commentary and requests, and hospitals reaching out to us and thanking us and just wanting us to go to their hospital and go to a certain specific, department of that hospital. And then you'd have friends of doctors, and you'd have patients or former patients of doctors and hospitals that treated them so well, calling up and saying, please, can you go to Greenwich Hospital? Can you go to St. John's? Can you do this? And we started to feed off of this energy. This is amazing. This is ultimately grassroots why we come every day to cook. This gave us sort of a mission, a new mission, and we were able to make a difference in the community, and it felt so very good to be able to be fortunate enough to be considered an essential business, have us operate, and have the community show us support by donations, and be able to sort of keep feeding these front lines every week. I think we were over like 3,000 pizzas at this point since we started, and it felt really good.
We have to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back with Chef David DiBari, and we're going to be talking after this 5-minute break about the restaurant business and a little bit more about the GoFundMe campaign and their efforts, the restaurant's efforts to do good for others. So we'll be right back.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenberg Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenberg Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning. I'm Paul Feiner, and we have a very interesting program today. My guest is David DiBari, who is a chef at the Cookery in Dobbs Ferry, and they've set up a GoFund campaign to help staff and others who are suffering during this COVID-19 experiences. David, if people want to make donations, how do they go about doing so?
The best way, honestly, is they can call the restaurant. They can do it online, thanks to technology these days, and also via the GoFundMe page, which we created.
And could you give us the phone numbers or email addresses or links?
Yeah, sure. The cookery its campaign is pasta for pasta, where again we're sort of doing the same model as the parlor with regards to pizza. And so you can call in at 305-2336, or you can go to the website cookeryrestaurant.com, where you will immediately see an online ordering platform by Toast, and you'll be prompted to make a donation for pasta at the cookery. And it is the same at the parlor. The phone number is 914-478-8200. Again, if you go to the website, www.parlor.com, parlordf, I should say, again, you will be prompted for a donation, as well as your online ordering there as well. And that GoFundMe page is called Dough for Dough.
How many employees have been helped so far?
How many? All of our employees, for the most part, in terms of like being employed, or
no, but
in terms of
donation.
Oh, the donation, the cookery staff relief fund has been amazing. I think we raised somewhere around like $40,000 for them, and then it gets distributed amongst all of our staff. So that's been huge. And just, you can feel the love and support from even just our customers, who are thankful that we are open, as we are thankful to be open, even just for curbside. They're just supporting through gratuity, and they're supporting through donations. It's incredible. So I thank everyone, all of our customers.
Right. In terms of the curbside pickups, what percent of your employees are now back at work?
We have pretty much about, I would say, like 65%, which is pretty damn good. And we're trying, and that's, we're trying to do that based on, and trying to do that based on the level of businesses that we have, given that we can only do curbside. But we've got about 65, and we're striving for more as we continue to build the business and kind of figure out where we're going with the whole PPP situation and the regulations within and loans that are being given out. It's all very, very tricky, and trying to get updates and understand them every day is taxing. But we're very grateful.
Yeah, because they say 1 minute you could do one thing, and then an hour later you realize you could do something else. It is definitely confusing. The question I have is, I know a lot of people are now ordering takeouts. So would you say about 65% of the typical restaurant's business, is still operating, or is the cookery, because you have such a good reputation, a little different?
No, I think that, to be honest with you, it has not been an easy road in terms of levels of business for any of the restaurants. We are down significantly. I mean, you cannot just survive off of, especially at the level we operate on curbside. We're probably down in business 65%, but we're employing as many as we can because we're able to operate. But the game now is how do we develop a bigger presence as a to-go business, because that ultimately is where we are for, at very minimum, the next 6 weeks. Very minimum the next 6 weeks. What's to come after that? If we're allowed to operate at 25% or 50%, that necessarily does not make sense for us as a restaurant group. And we may have to continue developing and being the best curbside pickup or to-go game, and reinventing ourselves as much as we can to build that business. We are fortunate enough that we have support, and that we are driving ourselves and our staff every day to be creative and do the best we can. But it is not the most ideal situation. It's also it's amazing to see what sort of spawns out of this, with so many different restaurants in Westchester being affected by this. and seeing the overwhelming amount of creativity that everyone has and how everyone's sort of coming together and like, developing new ways of getting their product in front of people and supporting their community and being relevant in this time is really huge. And it's pretty great to see Westchester County being such a prominent figure in the restaurant world right now and doing what they have to do.
But I had other question that I thought of. I was reading an article maybe a month or so ago that some restaurants are becoming mini supermarkets where you could not only order food, but you might be able to get milk, bread, things that you normally would get at a supermarket, but you wouldn't have to wait online. And I'm wondering if that's something that you thought of or other restaurants in the county are considering.
100%. It's a revenue stream. Not only a revenue stream, you're doing it out of necessity, but you kind of figure out, wow, this is kind of fun. This is what we do. This is a way that we can cook and produce things and make people happy. And maybe they don't want to go to a crowded grocery store or whatnot, and they can come to their local restaurant and sort of shop for the little things that they were used to going into the dining room and enjoying, but know they can get that quality in a sauce in a jar or a packaged pasta ready. We've been doing a collaboration with Chico's grocery store, who are all over Westchester, and we're working predominantly in Ardsley, but they had just an amazing effort to support.
So we have to take another break, and then we'll be back, and we'll talk about the Chico's and the cookery.
Sure.
And your relationship to them. This is a shorter break, so we'll be back with David DiBari of the Cookery in Dobbsbury in a couple minutes. Thank you.
1460 WVOX.
Now back to the Greenberg Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenberg Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, this is Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenberg Town Supervisor, and we have a very interesting program. We're discussing the restaurant business, the Cookery's GoFundMe page. They've been helping their employees and others during this very difficult time. They've been assisting frontline workers due to COVID-19. And they're talking about, we've been talking about right before the break, how restaurants are working and making changes, adjusting to the times because the world is a little different. And David, you were talking about your relationship with the Chico's.
Yeah, I mean, I just got this amazing call, from Joe at the Chico's, and he was looking to fill prepared foods with local chefs to support them inside the grocery store, which immediately just, we're overnight. We're like, this is an amazing opportunity, and we're so thankful for the support. And, it turns us immediately into, okay, we're in the retail game now. This could be a thing. This is a way to get our product out there and explore something maybe we didn't have time to explore, in our everyday operations, and also a way to sort of be doing what we love to do on a different level, and getting our product to the consumer without having to come into the restaurant, which they couldn't do anyway. So we started a frozen pizza from the parlor, which again, that's where the Dough for Dough campaign is coming out of, and that's where we're feeding a lot of the front lines with pizza. And we have this frozen margarita pizza that can be purchased right now in Ardsley and in Millwood grocery stores at Chico's. And it's doing really well, and it's super fun to be able to be able to do that. And as well as the cookery, these sort of oven-ready pasta dishes, what we call rotolo, which are these beautiful pinwheels of ricotta and basil and parmigiano of our fresh pasta, and in a light tomato sauce, and then you could just pop it in the oven for 15 minutes and you're good to go. And it's fun for us. It's meaningful, and we're very thankful to be able to have that opportunity.
That is great. I think a lot of restaurants are going to be developing relationships with supermarkets.
I don't know. I I would think so. I would think that every restaurant, again, they're showing such amazing creativity and drive that, yeah, I would see that. I see a lot of different frozen pizzas out there as well. And I think it's definitely a way for restaurants to survive at some level, for sure.
Right. We're looking in Greenberg, in unincorporated Greenberg, at allowing restaurants to have outdoor, seating. It's promoting that.
Uh-huh.
How important is that?
I think the outside seating for us, I think for restaurants, especially during the summer, I think is a great idea. Again, I'm slightly concerned with easing our way into this reopening, because if there's anything that we don't want to see, especially restaurants, is to jump back in this thing and have some resurgence in the fall, which is something that could possibly happen. And then we go back to where we were, right? So, like, we don't have a huge outside seating capacity, maybe for a couple tables, and we might explore that, but it's more to just ease everybody back into it. How can we do this as safe as possible? And I think it's great for them to go ahead with it. I don't know that for most restaurants, even just the outside seating is enough to sustain the business that they need to operate. But it's helpful. I think it's helpful maybe, and again, just, let's dip our toe in this water just a little bit before we go nuts. And maybe that's a good way to start. It's outside. There's less to worry about in terms of, getting infected. It's a little bit more feasible. And that's why I think it's probably a good idea right now. Just let's all ease into it, I think.
Do you think that a lot of restaurants are going to end up going out of business? A lot of old restaurants. What's your gut feeling?
I hate to say it, but and I put myself up there with all of them. It is not a good time, and it is uncertain, and I think that there might be. Yeah, I think there might be. I mean, it's not easy. It was never a really lucrative business in terms of bottom line for most restaurants. It was volatile from the start, and then in most recent years, the prices for things, for product, operational costs, different ways of business, hands in the pocket, leveraging the restaurant business, labor laws have never really been in our favor because we're such small businesses and we work off such small margins as it is. And, for restaurants like us, we never really, it's a business, right? And it's a business first and foremost so that our customer has a value, but it really came from an artistic expression and a passion and a belief and a concept and things that people came there specifically for you to do. And, when you operate like that and you're not considering the bottom line because you're happy being able to do what you love to do and making people happy, you forget about that bottom line sometimes and you don't realize how small it is because you're happy doing what you love to do. But I think for right now, being that it was so volatile and now this happens to restaurants, it's not very promising. And it sort of opens our eyes, I think, also on a different level to see what other avenues are out there. How can we survive now? I guess,
Yeah, I was also thinking, before the show, I said, the cookery, your dining area is, relatively small, and now, and it's intimate, and now all of a sudden, everybody's going to have to stay 6 feet apart. The table, you're not going to be able to have as many people sitting as close to each other as you had before. And this is going to apply to all restaurants. So if the occupancy is down, that's going to make it even harder because you're going to have many. At the best case, you'll have fewer customers.
Exactly. And for us as smaller restaurants, again, it doesn't really make much sense at 25 or 50% capacity to operate. Again, we're going to sit back as a team and collectively think about what it is, what's the plan, how are we going to deal with this if they let us do 25%. There's so many different ways, different creative ways we can work with that. And then how do we stay super safe? That's also a huge goal. And I don't know that it's going to be worth it. And I don't know, I think that's why we said, like, let's just keep doing what we're doing and developing where we are. And the need right now is curbside. That's what we've got to do. The need is retail. And if we can get some people in here and create some way to make it safe and equitable and as equally delicious and be able to, restaurants are not just about, it's not just about, the food and the drink, and it's about the energy of the restaurant. It's about the people that are there, the people that were supported through that GoFundMe, the people that, donated to my staff. You come into that restaurant and you feel an energy between every server, dishwasher, bartender, cook, chef, whatever it is, manager. Like, that's going to be lost too. So is there really a purpose? Can we create something that gives you that same energy and feeling? I sort of sometimes think maybe if we can create that through what we're doing now, I don't know if it's going to be recreated with 25 or 50%, and having safety boundaries and plexiglass and whatever else we have to do. It's sort of weird.
So we have to take one final break, and then we'll be back with David DiBari of the Cookery, and we're going to be talking about the restaurant business and how it's evolving, the difficulties, struggles, and his GoFundMe page. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenberg Town Supervisor.
WVOX.
Now back to the Greenberg Report on 1460 WVOX. Once again, here's Greenberg Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Hi, this is Paul Feiner. I'm Greenberg David DiBari of Cookery, and it's a well-known and a great restaurant in Dobbs Ferry. Your restaurant, I think, has been rated among the best in all of Westchester County. Isn't that true?
Yeah. We were very fortunate right before COVID. We had gotten a Michelin bib gourmand for both the Cookery and Eugene's Diner and Bar, which is just recently opened in Port Chester, which was super exciting for us. And then just recently, I was nominated for a James Beard Award for I think it was Best Chef Northeast or New York, which was really like humbling to say the least. Didn't expect that at all. But yeah, we've been there doing our thing for a long time, and again, we really appreciate the support from Westchester, and we're very fortunate to be nominated for those things. And we're happy to be
great
alive
because you could see the passion that you have for the business, but even more the passion you have for being a good cook and having outstanding service. It's really nice to speak to somebody who really loves their job, and I get the feeling that you're doing this as much for the love of creating delicious food as you're doing it for a business. But I think it's really inspiring. I was sort of curious with the takeout business. You drive around the county and you see a lot of quiet. Occasionally somebody comes in and out of a restaurant with takeout food. How many takeouts does a restaurant need per evening to break even?
That's sort of a hard question because we're like, because your revenue has been 65-75% less. Now it's a whole new business, so you have to try to run the numbers based on that. And I'll just tell you in vague terms, it's you need to do a lot. You need to do a lot to make up for what you were doing with people in the seats. However, again, I think that it was awesome of like the SLA to be able to allow us to serve alcohol out the door and get creative with bottled cocktails and whatnot. Huge help. It's a huge help because everyone knows that you really don't make much money on food, as it is extremely perishable, and there's just not very good margins on it, especially when whether you're operating a full capacity restaurant or you're doing curbside and you're continually trying to use sustainable, good product, which is not the easiest to find now anyway. And you almost don't want to cut corners still in this situation, although, it sometimes you have to. But yeah, having the cocktails is also extremely helpful for us in terms of curbside, but you have to do quite a bit of it.
When people were typically doing nice tipping of the staff during when they're at a restaurant, are the tips as good when people order takeout? It's sort of up and down, but I would say for the most part, it's been relatively the same, and I think that's awesome because people are really and for in some instances it's been a lot more, and it's just because people really want to support the staff and they really want to support the restaurant, and that's really, really huge for them. Really huge for them. So, and we appreciate that. So yeah, it's there, for sure. Another question I had is the industry. You deal with food productions, wine companies, linens, supplies. How have they dealt with you, the suppliers? You know what? I have to say the suppliers have been extremely supportive. I mean, we are all in the same boat. And, when I feel for the purveyors, because as we at restaurants shut down, well, guess what? Like, we're not making money. They're not making money. And I think they all want to find ways, along with us to figure out how do we all keep operating. And they've been very supportive of being able to deliver. Look, they have different delivery times. They're like, their staffing is the same. They don't have the same drivers. They're creating new ways of business for themselves, actually, whether it's home deliveries, which they weren't able to do before. They're developing different ways to have cash flow, as are we. And so they've been very supportive of keeping us alive so that we can continue to do what we would do, and we're keeping them alive so they can do what they do. Has the landlords typically in Westchester given breaks to restaurants and their tenants? I would say that every situation is extremely different, and for us, I think we're fortunate to have good people or landlords who are working with us at sub level. I don't want to say what those things are, but there's many ways to cut the cake and work together with your landlord. I would say to other restaurants, and it's generally starts with a good communication and a good relationship. If you ask me, do I think that there should be breaks? I want to just say yes, but I also understand what the other end is going through. But I don't think there's really any other way other than to work together. I think it's just how you sort of come to that agreement. But yes, I've been fortunate enough to have people that are working with us, and I think that everyone should be looking to do the same thing. It's a team effort, right? And I was going to also ask about federal and state government, help. Have restaurants received, financial help through the federal stimulus program? Yeah, I mean, it's there. I think most of the restaurants that I know, and I think, which is great to hear that everyone has been able to benefit from the
loans. However, and I get it because, look, no one was ready for this. The government, no one could tell you how to do this, but we all knew we had to do something, right? It's like sort of like, let's do this and figure it out. It has been helpful. It has been helpful mentally and monetarily to be able to have some security. At least know. I think the biggest headache for us in most restaurants is, we don't want to take on another loan. We can't afford to take. We're already, in debt. Like the restaurants, we don't want any more debt. We don't want any more loans. But it might be the only way given the levels of business doing curbside. So the biggest thing is, again, understanding the mandates and understanding the changes and understanding, what portion of these loans is forgiven and what you actually have to do and how do you spend this money within 8 weeks, which again, I think I heard earlier on the show, actually, something that was just released about extending those 8 weeks of using that loan money to like 24 weeks, which is, that's huge. That's something they're listening to us because you can't just bring everyone back to work at these levels of business and expect to employ 75% of your staff. And especially with a lot of the unemployment that's going on, like people are getting unemployment, they're doing well. It's not necessarily a great time to come back to work. There's safety issues and thinking about who is who and who can come back to work and who is vulnerable to being infected. And when you factor all of these things in, it's not that easy to just use, loan money. So I think most of us are sort of reluctant to even use it. It's good to have, but we want to see how it's going to transpire and how we're going to be able to use it to the best of our abilities without just taking on another loan.
Right. I think that's great what you're doing. We just have another minute or so. Could you just tell us again how people could contact you?
Well, I mean, just show up at the restaurant, support by ordering food. But again, call 478-8200 for the parlor and donate a pizza, and we will be feeding the front lines with those pizzas. You can go to the website, order and donate online, as well as the cookery. So you have dough for dough at the parlor, and you have pasta with a purpose at the cookery. Both models are the same, and we really appreciate your support and from the beginning, and your continued support to everyone out there. And thank you so much. And thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure to talk to you about this stuff. I feel like
thank you.
It's all we talk about every day. You got it.
You're a great asset to our community. I'm Paul Feiner, Greenberg Town Supervisor.